Data in the past used to be, BI reporting that you would look at once a month or once a quarter or whatnot. And, if it's broken, if the numbers are wrong, no worries. You take a few more extra days and you go and fix that.
Right.
And that's changing rapidly today, right? Like modern tech companies um, kind of live off of their dashboards. Hundreds, thousands of people look at the data every day to make every single decision. And then increasingly, people are using machine learning models to
Right.
automate decisions and to do things fully automatically based on data.
Lior Gavish, welcome to 20 Minute Leaders. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here today.
I, I'm honored to have you here. Lior, we have way too many things I want to talk about. I'm just going to dive in to give a little bit about your bio, and then I'll ask some of the fun and interesting questions. At Tel-Aviv University for bachelor's and master's, Stanford MBA at the GSB, co-founder of Sookasa, which first of all, it's a beautiful name, and I have to learn more about what you did there. Sold to Barracuda after being backed by Accel and Andreessen Horowitz and First Round Capital, which I have to ask how the hell you made that happen. Then senior vice president of email protection at Barracuda, and now the co-founder of another startup, Monte Carlo. Lior, this show is for young entrepreneurs. I'm a young, hungry, scrappy entrepreneur, and I know that there's so much that I can learn from you. So I really want to make use of these 20 minutes. So first of all, thank you for being here. And second of all, tell me a little bit about you. Are you an engineer, an entrepreneur? What are you?
It's a great question, and I've been going back and forth about that for a long time now. I'm definitely an engineer by training, and also I think that that's where my heart is at.
Hmm.
But I did find myself spending a lot of time on non-engineering stuff because I've spent a lot of time in early stage startups, and when you do that, you kind of get to do a lot of different things across the board um, from building teams to go to market and also product engineering. So
Right.
I've definitely spent a lot of time doing other things as well, but I'm still hoping that one day I'll get back to writing code all day long. I'm definitely passionate about that.
I have to say that is one of the things that excite me most in talking to people like you on the show, because you have somebody here who, is an engineer, but, had such a unique experience both at the GSB, then creating a company that was sold to Barracuda, being a very executive manager at Barracuda. Now another again an entrepreneur, but saying that after all this, you still wish you can go back to writing code because you're truly passionate about technology. And I just love that, because I think it's that passion and curious which leads people like you to these huge milestones. Tell me a little bit about the journey that you took and some of the decisions that you've made along that journey, because it's not the typical Israeli journey to go to the GSB and then everything else. But tell me a little bit about what you've done there.
Yeah, no, it's been a long journey with a lot of turns, but I started my career as an engineer, right? Like I worked for a couple of startups back in Israel,
Hmm.
in my 20s, and then at some point there, I felt I wanted a new adventure to kind of broaden my horizons and learn things beyond engineering, and maybe try a different place as well. So that's kind of what has inspired me to come to Stanford. And Stanford was kind of a great experience and a great opportunity for me because I think it brings together like general business training and leadership training and all that good stuff, along with an environment that's very tech oriented and startup oriented, and it's really the community there is very vibrant, and very focused around entrepreneurship and tech. So it was a great kind of combination for me. Um, so I spent 2 years there. I dabbled with thinking I might do non-tech stuff like I don't know consulting or or semi-tech stuff like VC, but I ended up deciding that I want to do the thing that I love best, which is startups and engineering. So I ended up partnering up with my co-founder back then. He was a PhD at Stanford in electrical engineering. We partnered together to start a startup company, Sookasa, in the cybersecurity space. So that's what I did right after school, right after the GSB.
Wait,
Uh,
Lior, you're
yeah.
at Stanford, you're doing your you're at the GSB, you're thinking about consulting or going to VC, or say, no, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and you have a friend, PhD in electrical engineering at Stanford. What was the moment where you decided to start this together? Were you always talking about creating a company together, or did you just say, okay, let's try something, or did you have an idea first and then join forces? What actually happened there?
Yeah, no, I think I made the decision independently that I wanted to start a company. It was just too exciting to pass up. Um, and I actually I worked with a handful of people back then, including classmates from GSB.
Hmm.
And you go around between different projects and different ideas, um, and they were in completely different spaces. Like one was in e-commerce, and another one was actually also in e-commerce, and then the third one was what I ended up doing with my co-founder back then, whose name is Asaf, and it just ended up being feeling right. Right, it was the right team. It
Right.
was the right space. It was an exciting opportunity in a space that seemed to have a lot of dynamics in it, a lot of growth. So it ended up being kind of the right opportunity for me among several that I explored, and that's something I would tell anyone thinking of starting a company. Um, it's worthwhile looking through several different teams if you
Right.
can, and several different spaces and ideas, and see where things stick. Like, where do you get your passion? Where do you see customers getting excited? Where are things moving and changing quickly? And yeah, it worked for me. So
So you actually ended up spending just about as much time in Barracuda as you did in Sookasa, right? Because you spent about 4 years in each of them, a little bit less in Barracuda, but you had the unique role of being senior vice president of engineering with email protection. And as a cybersecurity enthusiast myself, I'd love to hear a little bit about, what would you do there, and what is it about email protection that it was so relevant to what you were doing?
oh, so Barracuda. So when we joined Barracuda, Barracuda acquired Sukasa, and when we joined Barracuda, um, we were fortunate to work with some really really great leaders there,
Hmm.
and learn a ton. And one of the things that happened was that we got a carte blanche, like go and do something exciting, and can be whatever you want, right? And I think after 3 or 4 years of doing Sukasa, we felt that we were kind of exhausting, if you will, the market around what we were building at Sukasa, and we're thinking like, what are what's some adjacent fields? What are some areas where we could take the technology and really build something even bigger and even more exciting? Um, and it so happened that those times were times of great need in the email
Right.
protection space. So it was a time when various types of highly personalized phishing attacks and account takeover attacks and other forms of email fraud were kind of growing really fast, and we realized that the industry was lagging behind in terms of being able to address it. And like every time we spoke to customers, they were inundated with these things, and it started to get into kind of material economic damage happening
Right.
through email attacks. Um, and so we had this like very unique approach, technical approach to solving this problem that didn't exist back then, and kind of aligned pretty well with the things that we did at Sookasa. So we ended up
Right.
building and launching a product at the Barracuda. The product it was the fastest growing product for Barracuda ever, um,
Unbelievable.
and kind of ended up leading the market. And we got into the leader wave on Forrester and whatnot. So for the first time in the company's history. So it was really exciting, and it was a very gratifying experience. I learned a ton, both about the technology and the market that we were operating in, and which email protection. And I also learned a ton about building teams and companies, and learning from senior leaders. I have to admit, like throughout my career before, I mostly worked in smaller startups, and you
Right.
do learn a ton, right? Like you learn a ton by doing, and like figuring stuff out and making your own
Yep.
mistakes. And it was the first time that I was working for people that were far ahead of me in their careers, and I had a great opportunity to learn and really see how they look at things and how they do business and how they lead teams and all that good stuff. So I stayed for a long time, and really, really enjoyed it. Even when I left, I was still very excited about what I was doing, and I'd probably be happy to stay there as well. But I ended up leaving for an even more exciting opportunity, which is what I do today. It's Monte Carlo.
I love that. One key difference from being the entrepreneur in the room, as you're scaling your startup and then all of a sudden joining and being senior vice president at a much bigger company, building teams. And I'm sure that building a product within a big company is very, very different than building a product within a startup. What is one or two key differences that you've observed from these experiences?
Yeah, no, it's a huge difference. I think one difference, which has been thoroughly discussed in a lot of books, is definitely the kind of some form of the innovator's dilemma, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
the company has a certain momentum and has teams that have been spending years and sometimes decades building
Right.
stuff, and that stuff brings money, right? And it's
Sure.
selling well, and it's working great. And like, how do you come and tell them that this is you might do it in a nice way, but like, how do you come and tell them that that's legacy? And that they really need to be investing in this new exciting thing that's making no money right now, but will be big one day. And I think that's definitely a challenge in a larger organization that where a lot of people have a lot of momentum going in a certain direction. So that was definitely something that I you can read about it in books, but until you kind of go through it and experience it yourself, it's hard to fully understand.
I love that.
Um, so that's one thing I learned. The second maybe is it was definitely a much larger team in Barracuda.
Yeah.
So I learned that a lot of that really it's also true for smaller teams, but like culture wins, right? Every time, right?
Yeah.
Like my job, I could no longer um, even fully understand everything that we did, right? Like there's so many things going on. I certainly didn't have any opportunity to do things myself, but like the main way by which I could impact the organization was to hire the right people and to put together a framework or an environment that would make them successful. So and a culture. So
Right.
that was huge as well.
Very, very cool.
So yeah.
Lior, we don't have much time, but the most exciting opportunity now, Monte Carlo. At first, when I saw that you work on Monte Carlo, I was like, okay, is he building the poker chips that I enjoy playing with my friends on Friday nights? I'm assuming that it's not, and I know that it's all about data. So tell me a little bit about Monte Carlo and the decision to leave the incredible role of senior vice president at Barracuda to again be a young entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, poker chips is definitely one of the ideas we were considering at the time. We decided to go for data.
I don't know. Time will
So
tell whether that was the right decision.
we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. It's early. But what we do, so we're definitely in the data space. Our customers are data teams. So we help data engineers and data analysts and sometimes data scientists. And we help them with a buzzword called observability.
Okay.
So it's the idea of being able to make systems reliable, and
Hmm.
I'll try to explain that. So the maybe the way to think about it is, especially if you've been in engineering, is 20 years ago, if you even had a website and it was broken and went down, nobody cared, right? Like you might
Right.
call someone in marketing to take a look at it the next day. Today, any sort of business is strongly reliant on digital and on online applications and websites. And if something gets broken, someone's going to wake up at night to fix it. In fact, multiple people, and it'll be a CEO level issue, right?
Right.
Um, and we think the same thing is happening to data, right? Like data in the past used to be, BI reporting that you would look at once a month or once a quarter or whatnot. And if it's broken, if the numbers are wrong, no worries. You take a few more extra days and you go and fix that.
Right.
And that's changing rapidly today, right? Like modern tech companies um, kind of live off of their dashboards. Hundreds, thousands of people look at the data every day to make every single decision. And then increasingly, people are using machine learning models
Right.
to automate decisions and to do things fully automatically based on data. And data is also becoming the product for a lot of companies, right? They might be serving data to their customers as their service. Um, and so the reliability of that data, the accuracy of that data, the correctness of that data is becoming important. And it's no longer something that you're calling someone and they might take care of it a few days later. It's something that you need to take care of in real time. You need to make sure your data is
Yeah.
reliable. Um, and in the same way that there's a lot of methodology in software engineering, a lot of tooling, tools like Datadog and New Relic and App Dynamics to manage, the reliability of applications. We're helping teams with managing the reliability of their data products, of reporting, of models, of analytics. So that's what we're working on today.
I love that, Lior. It's such an exciting journey. What are some of the biggest insights that you're taking with you from Sookasa in the early stages now to Monte Carlo? Things that if you hadn't done Sookasa, you probably wouldn't know or you wouldn't believe if others would tell you.
Yes, it's a good question. I hope I learned a few things. Um, the main one, I think it's Sukasa. One of looking back and hindsight is 2020. Um, we did. We were building essentially a security layer for Dropbox. Dropbox back then was taking hold and was becoming very popular, and we felt that businesses will need ways to secure Dropbox and make it more appropriate for confidential or sensitive information.
Right.
Um, so that's what we were working on. It was an exciting opportunity. We had kind of early success and we pretty much dominated that market. We were Dropbox's number one partner, and if you needed security for Dropbox, Sookasa was your go-to solution, and it was all very exciting. Um, However, I think that we were so focused on that specific niche in the market that we overlooked even larger opportunities that existed back then. A category that later became CASB was happening back at the time, and we could have gone into that category. It was a natural extension of what we were doing, and we didn't. We were super focused, laser focused on optimizing for our niche. And I think and that ended up being a mistake, right? Like the Caspian market ended up being much larger and much more um, much more interesting over the long term. And I think what I learned from that was, um, you have to be laser focused on what you're doing, make your customers happy, make one customer happy, then make 10 customers happy, etc. Uh, and at the same time, you want to be attentive to what's going on and be willing to change course and expand the
Right.
definition of what you're doing, and see where things are going and where the kind of broader market is shifting. And I think that's one of the biggest things I took away. Like at the end of the day, if you want to build a really large company, and that's our goal with Monte Carlo, we're here to to build a unicorn or a decacorn or whatever it is, an industry changing company. And to do that, you really need to see things in a broad way. It's not enough to build like a feature or like highly
Right.
satisfy a very narrow need. You kind of need
Yes.
to build a cat. In this case, we're trying to build a category. So that's
I
kind of what
love
I took
that.
away, to keep your eyes open to category building opportunities that end up being much more exciting.
I love that. Lior, thank you so much for the time. I know how busy you are, and I appreciate it so much. This was insightful, and it's an honor to have you here. What are three words that you would use to describe yourself?
Oh wow, it's a great question. Um, I'm probably I've been told, right? I don't know how to describe myself, but I've been told I'm quiet, so that's one thing. I don't speak much.
Wow.
Um, I've been told I'm fast. I do things very fast, and that's been helpful in my entrepreneurial career. Sometimes it's more
Yeah.
important to be fast. Um, and I've also been called stoic. So
Stoic.
that's it for you. Yeah.
I love that. Lior, thank you so, so much. Really, really great. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and stay safe and stay healthy.
You too, Michael. Great talking to you.
Thank you very, very much.